Welcome to the Social Hotelier with me, Sam-Erik Ruttmann. My guest today is Christian Grage, Managing Director of Touristik Hotels Resorts. When people look at successful hospitality leaders, they often see the impressive titles, the global career, and the achievements. What they don't always see are the setbacks, the difficult decisions, and the lessons learned along the way. That is exactly what makes this conversation with Christian so refreshing. We talk about why making mistakes is essential for growth, why authenticity matters more than trying to appear perfect, and why leadership is ultimately about earning trust, not pretending to have all the answers. If you enjoy conversations like this with hospitality leaders who openly share their experiences and practical leadership lessons, I really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. It helps YouTube recommend those conversations to more people in the hospitality, and it ensures you won't miss future interviews with industry leaders. One of the biggest takeaways for me was Christian's belief that greatest growth happens when you step outside your comfort zone. Whether navigating social unrest or building a career across different countries and cultures, every challenge becomes an opportunity to learn. Not only about business, but also about yourself. His message is simple but powerful. Respect people, stay open-minded, and embrace the local culture. Those qualities matter far more than any management textbook. What resonated with me most was his view of leadership. It's not about being perfect. It is about being dependable, learning from your mistakes, and having the humility to keep growing. Authenticity and resilience build trust far more effectively than trying to project an image of perfection. Perhaps that's the real lesson. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It is about learning from it, evolving, and helping others to do the same. I think you'll find this conversation both inspiring and practical. Enjoy the interview. Welcome, Christian. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Sam-Erik. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're well known in the hospitality and travel industry, and we have known each other for several years. But for those who don't know you, please introduce yourself.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much, Sam-Erik. Literally a career. If I look at my career, all I can say it's from an apron to a boardroom with a view. It's about 42 years in hospitality, probably close to 30 living across borders. I would describe it in simple terms, from vibrant pulse of Asia to the vast landscapes of Africa and the heritage of cities in Europe, equally to the diamond of Arabian Peninsula in Dubai. You will have seen nearly 20 years of global corporate roles. In the bottom of everything that I just said, I would probably say inspired by people, motivated by moments, making a difference, to always enjoy being on vacation.
Wonderful. If we take away the titles that you have, the global roles, and even the book, what part of your life story do you think truly defines who you are today?
I think titles, the roles, and the book would not exist without the beginning. So really, the initial years, they certainly formed me very much. Whilst I look through the entire path of the career and the movements, you always have to have an open mind. But looking back at the very beginning, learning from people that may have not been so gifted with educational opportunities, but brilliant in practical work and attitude, had a huge impact on my philosophy going forward.
Okay. And is that throughout all the destinations that you have worked? So it's like a red thread throughout your career?
Yeah, absolutely. This has always been like this in these circumstances.
Yeah. Looking back across your journey, what were the moments that didn't just build your career, but actually changed you as a person?
And I think you could probably say it fairly simple. When you leave your comfort zones, that educates you most. So when you step going abroad for the first time, you never really realize what's going to happen. When you accept your first task and challenges, or when you look at social unrest, things that I have gone through and experienced. So the moment you are out of your comfort zone and you move yourself out of your comfort zone, you are making giant steps forward in your own personal development.
Yeah.
And if I add one thing, Sam-Erik, I apologize. Always remember, your image never travels really with you. You start wherever you go, you start from a beginning again.
That's a very good, very important lesson to be learned. You made a conscious decision to step away from the international stage and return closer to a family. What shifted inside you in that period that you couldn't ignore anymore?
I think, in all honesty, also myself, I've been looking for a balanced life. But a good reason to use is always the family. But I must say, it has been the family, the children. And when I look back, they had to always follow me. And I think it was time to admit and to give back and say it's time to follow you and be united and be together. Last but not least, I live of emotions and with emotions and for emotions. And I think the feeling of coming home after such a global career path, it was equally a curious and exciting moment to do.
Yeah, I think this is something I'm sharing with you also, and all the career professionals who has been hospitality and travel, that we went from one place to another because there was an opportunity, maybe unknown opportunity, which was very exciting, and the adrenaline was flowing. But now, later on in the career, I think it's, as you said, to come home to where we're coming from is the place you're getting more of a balanced life. So that really resonates with me very much, and I'm sure with the audience also. In an industry that often celebrates constant movement and ambition, how do you personally define success today? Has that definition changed over time, or is it the same?
First of all, I would say seeing people around me succeed is key. I grow with them. And I think when I look back at my early days, this was not my priority. I was looking at myself. You may call me selfish, but you do learn. And you realize that it's always a team. It's always different people with different opinions that create the real value on the path going forward. So all I can say is today, seeing people around me succeed is a great vision.
Yeah. Yeah. You operate globally across cultures. What has that taught you about people that you couldn't have learned staying in one place?
I would use a couple of words, probably to have an open mind, to provide consideration, respect. But at the end, all of it comes through a wider view on elements that are impacting on our business and equally on life for our teams, owners and shareholders alike.
Yeah. Well, when you're considering you have worked across the continents and there are different cultures, what are sort of some key part of going into a new area which you did never work before, like culture-wise, that you had to learn something from? And what was your approach to learning about that new culture that helped you to succeed?
Well, I think you have to be, first of all, you learn about the local habits and traditions. Whether you're going to China and understand on basic terms how to eat a peanut with a chopstick is probably the most obvious one. But the talent is to understand and read attitudes, communication, styles of body language that are very, very different across the globe. So I would actually advise back, read through my book. You'll find a lot of opportunities. But on the bottom line, Sam-Erik, I would always say wherever I had the opportunity to live and learn, it has all to do with respect.
Yes.
Have an open mind, embrace the culture, and have the respect, and you will find a fantastic way to form a team and move forward.
Yeah. Did you work in Indonesia by any chance?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Now, the reason I ask you is because one of the first lessons I learned about working in Indonesia, because everybody was smiling continuously. Coming from Northern Europe, nobody's smiling except when they had few drinks or feel more relaxed or with friends. But in Indonesia, everybody smiles. And the first lesson I learned was look at the eyes, because the eyes will reveal, is that smile of nervousness or anger or actually either very happy. And that was the first lesson I learned coming into totally new culture. So I think in everywhere we go, there's always that small, whether it's learning to eat peanuts with a chopstick, because then that shows you the skill, how you can use chopstick, to actually reading people's body language and so on. Yeah, you mentioned about the book. You wrote and said the book is not about you, but about sharing experience for future leaders. Why was that distinction so important to you?
Well, first and foremost, it is not about me. Maybe I have stepped up to say I do write what I have experienced and share it. There are hundreds, thousands of us out there, many, many, even more experienced than I am, but they have not taken the last and final step to actually put it into a book to share. There are many actors during our careers that have been in place. They played the most vital role, the teams and the people around me. Without them, none of this would have been an experience. None of it would have been making it from thoughts and experience into written pages. So it is really all about sharing experience, none people or person related. It's all more for the circumstances. And you'll find a much more neutral environment to review for yourself as a reader. If you feel this could be something for you, or you may have had an occasion on this experience, what have you learned out of it? And how have I openly shared? Quite a few of my colleagues already that have been reading into the books have been telling me, Christian, you've been really honest and straightforward, which they know me for. I said, this is very important when you write behind the curtain aspects. It is stories, but they are all real. So taste them. If I go back to my early days, Sam-Erik, you rarely meet the chef who cooked the dish, but you taste and smell the dish. That's the difference.
Okay, very good. Just a practical question. Over how long did it take to put the book together? I mean, how many sleepless nights did you have writing notes, or did you have a fortune to work with people who helped you to put it together?
I should ask my wife to give you that honest answer. She has been seeing countless nights, lights going on by the time we were supposed to be deep asleep. But I think, if I'm fair, it had been years in my mind. I certainly knew when I was preparing to step out of my living globally life that this will one day be coming. The overall work is probably about 8 to 9 months. Luckily, I had a very professional guidance on my side with a Dubai-based Gulf publisher. That was a real help to be very efficient.
Yeah. So what tip would you advise fellow hoteliers or fellow hospitality leaders who have many years of experience and they have all these stories in their mind, to have the courage to sit down and actually get out their own book? Or maybe one tip or two tips that you say that from your own experience.
Very good question. I like it. You're triggering. I think you have to have a very clear conscience on the vision of your book, who you like to reach, what is the initial message. So do make sure that it has a vast, I call it a bit of wisdom, a bit of educational aspect in it, and not so much just a rundown of a day's routine. This is pretty blunt in the way I put it now, but I think you must have a clear vision. Even though I've done it for the first time, it has taken me a long time to formulate it and finally be sure the way I would like to set it out, whether it is the cover page, the motives, the website that goes along with it, or the actual initial PR activities, which are all homegrown.
Many hospitality careers look glamorous from the outside. What do you think people fundamentally misunderstand about this industry?
Yeah, I think they don't see the overall corporate responsibility that we carry along behind the glamorous life that does appear in wonderful rooms or beautiful food and restaurants and superly stylish design facilities. We carry corporate responsibility as to developing people together with owners who are creating and building hotels. We are building families in the same time in the background through their earnings, through their career growth and education. So we are contributing to a country's stability and a way forward. A lot of these are never discussed on hallways or during a reception at the front office area. And I think these kind of aspects need to be told. Besides, we always show in our social media and reports and glossy magazines the beautiful life. However, we also have to deal with sadness, with moments that are very, very emotional. And yet we have to, and we all want to maintain the spirit to the front. And this is what you will find in the book, the richness of what you will deal with in your career of a global life, looking behind the curtain.
Yeah. Is there one particular small anecdote you want to share that is in the book, but you like just share it here in this podcast that would describe just a small moment that would elevate that point you made?
I would probably a sad moment in that period. It was the way of a general manager that happened entirely unexpectedly, and you're suddenly been taken out of glamorous moments of life going forward, celebrating, and yet you have to put a break, turn around, and pick up teams, families, and customer owners alike who have to deal altogether with the sadness of the moment.
Okay. You spent years speaking to students and future leaders. What do you see in the next generation that gives you hope, and what concerns you?
The hope is definitely in their incredible curiosity for life and business. They all want to get out and explore and learn. Um, I am a little bit concerned about always hear about the life balance. It's becoming too much of me, myself, and I in hospitality and any service related industry, with all respect. You will have to give and share more than you probably take for yourself in the initial moment. While in fact, you do learn and grow whilst you are giving. And that's the beautiful factor about it. That's what I would say. I am a bit concerned about the overall human touch in our industry, but this is something that goes into a different chapter of AI and digital time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have worked such a long time in the industry, and there has been trends that have been coming and going. Is there one particular trend that has been a while that you think is totally outdated? And then my second part of the question is there a trend that you're excited about for the hotels?
As a totally outdated, I think nothing dies out entirely. In fact, very often I would recommend to go back to old traditions and relive them. So I wouldn't be able to give you any clear example today, but well, maybe there's one that I like to share because it is deep in my heart. Actually,
That's the best one.
we have been seeing the disappearance of the so-called doorman.
Yeah,
It widely disappeared, including in luxury properties in some exceptions and areas and regions. And I would wish we will bring back this beautiful moment of sense of arrival and departure, which is always talked about in every modern brand book, through this kind of appearing picture and service of a doorman. There is nothing more that connects me personally with a hotel and a brand than this beautiful smile, opening a door and having some kind of conversation, or coming in or leaving. This is what really sticks.
yeah. I totally agree with you. I mean, Helsinki, we haven't seen a doorman for years. But then suddenly one of the luxury brands opened one of their hotel in Helsinki, and now we see a doorman. And I think it's kind of a welcoming feeling. I totally agree with you how the gestures and also the know-how that the doorman has that can give you if you go on your way out, and they will give you some tips and so on. That's a very, very nice point you made. So is leadership in hospitality something that can be taught, or does it have to be learned through real challenges and setbacks?
Yeah, I think you really learn when you get, as I said earlier, when you get out of your comfort zone. You always learn, but I think the most lasting memory learning is when you are out of your comfort zone and when you are
Yeah,
challenged in your environment. That probably makes a huge difference in the way considering your future tasks and leading into new pathways on your strategies.
sure. After decades in the industry, what do you believe truly separates a leader who inspires from one who simply manages?
I think it's in the words already. Someone who manages is a task performer. Is within a time, is within a frame, within a time frame. Someone who leads, builds bridges, creates curiosity, or is driven by curiosity, and certainly is very creative with a team. So finding new pathways to reach to solve challenges that have not been solved before or under certain circumstances. That's to me the major difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember from my years in Thailand, I worked for a company there, and the golden rule from the managing director of the company was that I expect my general managers to spend only 30% of their time in the office. The rest should be with the staff or with the guest, and always during the key hours in the lobby. And that's a lesson that actually stuck with me for all these years, even I'm not in operation. So, those are small things that are you learn from people who have actually a great vision about hospitality or hotels, because it's so easy to figure out, it's so important to check the daily reports and the key performance indicators and so on. Then you forget what's the purpose of your being there as a manager, not sitting over Excel sheets, but being with the people who are serving and people who are being served.
Yeah, I think hospitality and managing is not a desk performance attitude.
Yeah.
Definitely not. So you got to be an extrovert in many aspects, but your life is where your team is and where the difference is made on the floor.
Sure. You touched on sustainability and conscious travel. Do you think today's traveler genuinely cares, or are we still seeing a gap between intention and behavior?
The first part of the question, for sure, the traveler today is very concerned and interested in sustainability. By all means, they like to see the engagements, the activities, and the corporate responsibility that is being lived. I do believe that there's still a gap between what is always talked about and presented on glossy magazines as reviews on brands versus actual happening. And this is where the sole responsibility for all of us in hospitality lies. Live stronger, the activities that proudly many are doing, engage with it and share it, and continue to be very engaged with it, because the traveler of the future continuously evaluates and values such activities.
Has the post-COVID traveler become more meaningful in how they travel, or simply more impatient?
Good question. I think post-COVID travelers want more real experience, more intense experience. They've left the area of soft touches. They like to be much more engaged, understanding, dive into it. You may call it the regional or the destination experiences. For sure, all this is on the rise.
Okay. You see the industry evolve. What's one shift happening right now that you think leaders are underestimating?
Well, I think it's a big topic. I would say, and I'm not actually saying we are underestimating. I think we are all somewhere in our minds, and that all has to do with the balance between the human aspects, AI, and the digital world. Plenty of questions can be asked around this, but I think that will be my key focus and recommendation to all of us. I'm still in the business. We very much, this is a topic where we need to deal with where do we find our place, what's the percentage of evaluation in importance, and what are the functions of those different elements going forward in the future hospitality.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, AI, there is always a lot of topics about this. And what frustrates me actually about the AI is that nowadays you seem not to be able to connect with a person, but it's a bot, or you have to really press on to get what we call a human on the other side to discuss things, because they want to give you options of 10 different options for an answer. And I hope this is not something that we're going to see in hotels anytime soon, because that's still about deep people dealing with people.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, we are still in the age where AI can respond, but it cannot proactively read emotions of people's faces and requirements. So there's a big gap, but it's an adventure. It's a discovery how we can bring all this together.
Sure. But I think what is the best part of AI now, as you see it, for instance, in the company you work with, that AI is actually generating something that took forever to accomplish, and now it's actually instantly able to handle certain part of the AI, which you think is already like a success in how it handles it in the hotels.
Well, across the world, across the daily routine, it helps a lot to evaluate, to simply get a different view, because the mass data AI can evaluate in a short period of time can give you an on-the-spot sense of feel. I would always say do not trust entirely into AI, and I will not go into any topics who is the provider and who is best, etc. But
Yeah.
the beauty is you can get within a very short time frame a lot of information and input to sense and build your further thoughts and maybe integrate it into your thinking. We look at it, if you look at practical things, you can look at marketing tools, you review your brand and your brand standards versus the personas of your brands. I think there are different ways to play around with. And to the bottom of me being very simple and practical, it just helps you also sometimes to formulate the right way with the right words, especially when you are not a native speaker in a certain language, whether this is in English, French, or Italian, or Spanish. It certainly helps you to draft a approach to matters of understanding.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the book. And writing this book required months of deep reflection and revisiting experiences. What did that process reveal about yourself that surprised you?
That's a good one. I think it was a little bit like a journey back in time, a mirror effect. And I think it opened my eyes on a few things. So when you start remembering initial going abroad or when you were in the kitchen, how have I felt about it? But how do I look at it back today, 40, 30 years later? You realize to understand your milestones that you have achieved and made at the time, not for yourself as career, but in your personality. And you understand to see why was this experience at that time so important to 20 years later be able to manage certain situation. I mean, it was really an eye-opener. I've done it on my own, but I think it could be a good psychological course for leadership on executive level in a sense of how do you call it, a strategic work. Try to write a book within an hour or 2 hours and look back, what did you put down? So these must have been the most important milestone in your career path on personality and management.
Yeah. You chose to leave imperfections in the book. What does that say about your philosophy on leadership and authenticity?
Again, it's we can only learn best when we make mistakes, and we need to be allowed to make mistakes. And maybe 30, 40 years, this was very different. You better did not make a mistake, but it is common in our fast pace of life and business environments. We are there to make mistakes. Key is learn of this mistake. Try not to make it the second time. It may fall on a different aspect in a way, but make sure you learn out of it. So life is not perfect. There is no perfect brand. It's more about reliability. And if I am in life a reliable leader, it's much more important than trying to be a perfect leader. It would mean I'm more busy with myself than the team and the path and the company.
If someone reads your book or listens to this conversation we have today, what do you hope changes in how they see their own career or potential?
I think I would say your path is always someone else's path as well. So have a look at that aspects. Keep the team aspects. You can only win together. You very rarely, if a young student thinks you make it to the top entirely on your own path, it will not work and it will fail.
And if your entire career had to be summed up in one message to the next generation of hospitality leaders, what would it be?
Be curious, think and act as a team ahead.
Very good. I have two more questions before we move on to our final segment, which is called the Off the Mic. The first question is that we have discussed a lot of topics here. What are the certain trends that you see happening in hospitality that hoteliers should take note of?
Yeah, I think if I look at hard aspects from a design, you probably look at multi-sensory matters. You will have to put a lot more aspects on emotions into designs. I think the customer today, due to the hectic lifestyle we all have, is much more into his mind and soul recovery versus the usual spa that we know. You will probably have to put a lot of emphasis in that area and rethink these kind of services. As we earlier talked about AI and digital aspects, I would call it the invisible touch is a key method. It's very important. Future localization, which means to me engage in the destination, learn about the destination and the strengths of regional delights and emotional benefit.
Okay. Lastly, if people are interested in finding out more about your work, or how can they connect with you if they want to just connect? I know you're active on social media, but is a particular channel that you suggest that they reach out to you?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity of the book. I would always invite everyone who's interested to look at www.alwaysonvacation.info, because you will not only find interesting aspects about the books, but more so you find the links to my social media and my personal contacts. And I think that's the easiest way to look around. Otherwise, under my name, you will certainly find me under LinkedIn. And from there, we can take a way forward.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, Christian. And now our final segment is called Off the Mic. It's actually my favorite part. No script, no pressure, just a few questions that might reveal a little bit more than planned. Your book is called Always on Vacation. Be honest, what percentage of that was actually vacation?
Very little, although the whole life is a beautiful feeling because I enjoyed it. So you have the fun of living this life as a vacation attitude. So if I look at
Yes.
it from my personal way, how I read it, I enjoyed it. For me, it was all a part of vacation. It continues. However, in fairness and respect to all those who are in the industry, it's not only an easy vacation life. And that's what we need to be fair and crisp bring across.
Okay. A question, what is your first musical memory? All the way back to your childhood.
I think I'm always looking at ABBA. I was very impressed with the singers and the songs. It always caught me. I think this is the kind of music that started in my teenager years.
Okay. You started in the kitchens. Do you still have any chef habits in your at home that your family finds slightly intense?
Nice question. As I still like to cook, I still qualify for internal in-house cooking. We love to cook for friends, but it stops right then and there. I think for more, it wouldn't last. Even though probably my children would tell you, and my wife will tell you, you always think you can still cook for customers outside. That's past.
After working across so many countries, what's the one cultural misunderstanding that still makes you laugh today?
That's a question. I really have to think for a second. Laugh.
Yeah.
I think if I look back in China, it was probably the moments when the board members were giving me messages where I thought it was an approval and a way forward. And my translator, who you have to have as a practice always in your meetings, after the meeting explained to me that this was all but not an approval. So this is how you learn. I thought I heard, I saw approval. It was all but not approval. And this is how you build sensitivity around cultures.
Yeah. What's the least glamorous moment of your career that nobody ever sees on Instagram, Facebook, or on LinkedIn?
Actually, I gave away the story a little earlier in our discussion. It was definitely about the sad passing away of a general manager who grew very close to all of us in the community. I do share other areas about the Arab Spring and social unrest, and I also admit on some of my kidnapping scenarios that were definitely unusual in a destination. So these you usually would not share necessarily. They stay maybe at a round table at some place. But I've taken the liberty to share those in the book simply because I think they need to be told. And I'm sure, and I know many of my colleagues have made similar, or not even worse, experiences. And it has to be out there because bottom line, we live like an ambassador to a destination, much more than just a hotelier.
Yes. So a little bit about you have seen about guest behavior. You've seen it all. What's one guest habit that still secretly makes you think, really?
Some years back, I had a guest in Eastern Europe, and he carried along a lot of knives, quite big knives. We initially didn't find out till a little bit later, so we had to ask him, obviously, not only to leave, but we had to review this with necessary security services. I could not believe it that guests walk around with knives for their own protection. He was not harmful to us or anyone, not at all. But he wanted knives for his protection. Incredible. In Europe.
Yeah, in Europe. So when you are completely off duty, What does switching off actually look like for you, or is it just a myth?
No, it's not a myth. We all need to balance our mindset, etc. When I was really active, I enjoyed playing tennis. Due to age, I think I looked for shorter courts and decided to go on a paddle court. I love the game; it's a lot of fun. But I can equally sit on a sofa in the evening and just watch some news, some reports of real life reports, and be showered by information rather than sharing myself within teams information and discussion. So switching off my mind is probably for me to take showers created by others.
Very good. After decades of travel, what's the one thing you never unpack anymore, physically or mentally?
Good question. Physically, I think I really realized that I'm just visiting and traveling. So I protect myself not to dive too much into the destination as business always dominates. If you like, that's probably a part I don't unpack unless I'm private with my wife. Then I would unpack all these aspects as we are diving into a different sphere of our life moment. In the suitcase itself, I often just unpack what is really needed for the next day and moment. And I realized to keep things simply because the hectic lifestyle demands you to pack faster than you anticipated in the initial planning of your trip.
That's so true. In all those high pressure situations, what's there ever a moment where you just had to laugh even though everything was going wrong?
Uh, yeah, where was this? I actually, do I have a Joker card here, Sam-Erik?
Go ahead. Where is it?
Because wrong was definitely well, if I remember, when in general terms, when you open hotels, you saw everything was meant to be perfect, and we are all ready to open, but the bottom line is energy supplies were not there as you needed them. So the opening of 24 hours going forward, and all the VIPs literally arriving in their limousines in front of the hotel, it, creates a lot of challenges, and no one panicked, but we all knew that it could strike into total disaster. Everyone kept a positive mind. We were laughing about it at the time. We were laughing about it after, because you find ways to solve it at the end of the day. But those were probably the most challenging environments in this countless opening processes that I remember.
Yeah. Okay, my final question, it's about honest self-awareness. What's one personality trait of yours that probably drove your teams slightly crazy over the years?
I am not patient at all. They will tell you this all the time. They always ask me, they always mention it. They give me the feedback all the time. We talk about a matter of something of developing. How do we transfer this? What's the idea to implement? And by the time they left out office or meeting, making, where are we? Can I see something? So this being impatient definitely has been one of I had to work on all my life. And I guess
Okay,
it will continue.
very good. Okay, thank you, Christian. That is the end of this final segment, and thank you very much for all your incredible insight. I really appreciate it that you joined the Social Hotelier today.
It's been a great honor, Sam-Erik. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be on this stage. And I wish you all the success. You are doing a wonderful, if I may call it, a job. It's an amazing inspiration to all of us. You have consistency, you're inspiring. And most importantly, Sam-Erik, you are networking, you are connecting us globally. Thank you very much.